They called themselves the Aethery, light-born, gravity-bound, timeless. They didn't speak in sound. They pulsed in radiant frequency, each shimmer of their starlight bodies communicating complex ideas, precise mathematics, stellar logic. They navigated black holes like humans walked through doorways, manipulated fusion with their will, moved suns across sectors as easily as a child might push marbles across a floor. They were impossibly old, impossibly advanced, and utterly untouched by feeling. To them, emotion was noise, illogical, inefficient. Their kind had long since shed what they called the primitive flickers, the early tremblings of mind that once hinted at sorrow, joy, longing. They replaced them with flawless calculation, streamlined consciousness. When humans made contact, the Aethery did not greet us with joy or hostility, only detached curiosity. Biological beings, radiating electrochemical inconsistency. End lifespan soon. That was our first classification. And yet, they did not destroy us. They studied us as anomalies, not equals. We didn't understand them either. How could we? Their ships weren't ships, but curved gravity. Their thoughts could shatter asteroids. Their homeworld was a mobile cluster of sentient stars. And still, they saw nothing worth feeling. Until the boy cried. His name was Marcus. He was 10 years old and alone on a relay station, his family gone in a freak plasma flare that left nothing but silence. The Aethery were the first on scene. They found him curled in a thermal blanket, rocking slowly, clutching a picture drawn in crayon, 2 stick figures holding hands. They did not understand the drawing, but they understood the sound. Sobbing, uncoded, raw, loud. It struck their sensors like solar static. Every Aethery present paused, disoriented. What is this emission? One pulsed. No aggression. No communicative syntax. Only pain. They tried to stop the noise. They adjusted pressure, gravity, temperature. Nothing worked. The boy didn't notice. He just cried harder. And then the sun shifted. Not metaphorically. Physically. The star nearest the station, a stable dwarf the Aethery had charted for eons, pulsed once, then deviated. A 10-degree arc enough to alter planetary tides. Uncalculated, one whispered. It wasn't a weapon. It wasn't sabotage. It was reaction. The boy's grief, his unfiltered despair, had moved something ancient, something tied to the Aethery's own essence. They scanned him again, rechecked every variable, and still couldn't explain it. He possesses no mass distortion tech. He emits nothing but hormone-laced saline. But the sun moved. The data was undeniable. And then Marcus did something worse. He reached for one of them. He touched its light, or tried to, with a trembling hand sticky from tears and chocolate rations. The Aethery recoiled instinctively. Contamination, one thought. But then warmth. Not temperature. Not physics. Something else. Something the Aethery hadn't felt in millennia. It broke one of them. Literally, shattered its frequency matrix. Not in destruction, but in transformation. The starlet being changed shape, its pulsing rhythm faltered, bent, curved into something softer. Glowing gold rather than sterile white. It spoke, not in frequency but in sound. Why does this hurt? Marcus, blinking through tears, looked up and whispered, because they're gone. Silence. Across the system, Aethery turned. For the first time in 1,000 millennia, they listened. Not just to data, but to the tremble of a child's voice. Because their son had moved. Not from thrust or mass or will, but from feeling. The event became legend. They called it the Weeping Shift. At first, they dismissed it as anomaly. Until it happened again. A human diplomat at an interstellar summit, breaking down mid-speech as she remembered a fallen friend, and a comet nearby reversed direction. A poet reciting verses over an ancient battlefield, and twin moons aligned where before they'd been adrift for centuries. A musician playing a requiem for Earth's extinct coral reefs, and the auroras on the Aethery's skin changed color for the first time in recorded history. It defied physics. It redefined physics. Emotion wasn't noise. It was force. Human grief bent solar plasma. Human joy aligned magnetic fields. And love made the stars sing. The Aethery, once aloof observers, became students. They studied tears, cataloged types of weeping. Joy weeping, loss weeping, rage weeping, awe weeping. They constructed amphitheaters near sun clusters and invited human families to tell stories, to cry together, to feel together, while Aethery instruments recorded the stellar responses. They learned to mimic our emotions, but poorly at first. Aethery tried to simulate crying by vibrating their forms. But it wasn't until one of them, watching a video of a human birth, spontaneously flickered with uncommanded sorrow that they realized it couldn't be faked. It had to be real. They had to feel. It terrified them, but they kept coming. They began to adopt human rituals, wakes, lullabies, storytelling, hugs. They began to remember that they too once had ancestors who feared the dark, and that fear made them build light. They asked for more stories, so we gave them everything. The journals of lost lovers, the voice recordings of soldiers whispering farewells, the laughter of children discovering snow. And in return, the Ethery showed us something incredible. They took the brightest star in their collective, a white-hot singularity once used to power an entire quadrant, and dimmed it so that we could project a movie on its surface. It was Bambi, the scene with the mother. Half the humans in attendance wept. So did the Ethery. Openly, proudly. They no longer feared fragility. They welcomed it. It changed how we traveled. Ships were now calibrated for emotional resonance. Pilots selected navigational moods before departure. Some traveled with music, others with memory. We colonized not by force, but by feeling. New worlds opened not to conquest, but to connection. The Ethery helped us terraform by attuning local stars to emotional harmonics, a process impossible before our meeting. They now believe human emotion is a fundamental force of the universe, as real as gravity, as essential as light. They used to move suns with thought. Now they ask us to cry beside them, to help bring spring to frozen stars. We gave them feeling. They gave us the galaxy. And still, when new children are born among the stars, it is tradition, both human and ethery, to place a tear on their forehead and whisper, "Let this move the heavens." Because it does, and always will.